So I came across an article from this very famous publication, which name I'm not going to tell today, The Observer, with the title, I hope there is no Deadpool 3. And I just wanna check it out, because personally I'm quite a big fan of Deadpool. I'm not a big fan of the whole Marvel Universe concept, but I like Deadpool as a character and I like the work that Ryan Reynolds does with Deadpool. So let's see why the writer from The Observer and The Observer agreed with that publication doesn't want to see another Deadpool. I find it fascinating with a lot of people that don't want to dislike certain trends and areas and have this big reach through media or newspapers and influence or put it out there just for clicks and controversy, which I probably think by this person is a big fan of the Marvel Universe, but it's just something for clicks. But anyway, Deadpool 2 finally premiered and I'm really confused. The movie was not terrible, at worst it was mediocre. Okay, and I'm not going to sit here and suggest that every movie critic out there should agree with me. Movies are art and all art is subjective. But considering just how underwhelmed I was, I am shocked that so many reviewers actually loved Deadpool 2. Okay, first of all, so people don't believe I'm really biased. I'm a bit biased, but I haven't watched Deadpool 2, so this guy might be wrong. I might be one of the people that wants to go and see Deadpool, and after I read The Observer, a really good publication, I might not go and see Deadpool. So okay, let's see what he has to follow it with. Personally, I would call it a failure, especially if juxtaposed against the brilliance of the first movie. The movie failed in 5 primary aspects. 5 primary aspects! That's all of the aspects, that's not 5 primary aspects. The comedy was stale, and for a franchise that prides itself with its humor, this is problematic. The pop culture references fell flat. The digs at DC and Marvel were clunky. And a lot of the X-Force stuff was silly. I mean, isn't that the whole Deadpool shtick? Isn't he kinda silly? That's what makes him funny, doesn't it? Maybe that's just me. And I won't even get into the gross humor. Let's just say I knew I was in for an uncomfortable ride when we reached the toilet paper joke. Okay, I don't know what jokes he's referring to, but maybe before I post this video today I'll go and watch Deadpool and maybe I'll update on the video, who knows? But even after my comedic senses began to groan, I was not ready to completely write Deadpool 2 off. That is often the advantage that superhero movies have. So you give superhero movies more chances than any other comedy movie? Why? They're not supposed to be funny, most of them. When all else fails, you can always count on them to deliver stunning action pieces. Except that this movie failed even in that aspect. The fight sequences were generic as heck. The choreography was uninspired and the set pieces sleep-inducing. So this guy wants me to tell me that a person that gave so many chances to a superhero comedy movie fell asleep, basically, because that's what sleep-inducing means. The climax, now we're using words he's never heard from a woman in his life, should have been an Avengers-style showdown, showcasing the abilities and skills of a disparate collection of individuals combining their efforts to deliver a beatdown of historical proportions. No, that's not how it should have been, and I'm glad, actually, that kind of makes me want to go and watch the movie in a way. It shouldn't be like the Avengers. That's why they're separate movies. That's why a lot of people complain. That's why there's a group of people that complain about Marvel movies, because they're all the same with just different superheroes, different CGI, and different characters. That means it's a good thing, it's something else. You don't want to see the Titanic 50,000 times. And even if you watch the movie itself 50,000 times, you don't want other movies to be basically the same. But the transition between moves and attacks could not have been more. What's the opposite of smooth? Unsmooth? This guy probably has a writing degree. I want to say rough. but I don't think the word perfectly captures the dull note upon which Deadpool 2 ended its run. I mean, am I reading a blog or a news article? Because now I'm really curious. It's on the Observer website. This should be a news article, this should be a news writer, this should be a journalist, this should be a guy that... If I would read a blog, I would understand. It's not a blog. And then there is the story, which I admit was ambitious. The first Deadpool was a love story that separated and then reunited Wade Wilson with his one true love. The sequel was supposed to be about family. But Wade basically loses everything and he has to fight his way out of pit, depression and despair by finding meaning in his relationship with a quirky cast of characters, and then together they save the day. Now he's just spoiling the movie in the dull way, quoting him. Unfortunately, this was without a doubt the weakest part of the movie. Wade had no chemistry whatsoever with any of the supporting characters. The execution failed to create the connection between Deadpool and his crew that the movie needed to make the emotional stakes at the end matter. And speaking of supporting characters, this was a waste of so many interesting individuals. Why am I even reading this? Colossus gets far more screen time here, but his contentious friendship with Deadpool fell shallow. The writers tried really hard to push the relationship and they failed with just as much determination. You know what? There's not a lot of things left out of this article. If you really want to read it all, you can find it. You don't need me to read this for you. There's a lot of things. Michael Kate. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Michael. So he's probably a girl unless it's Michelle. Michael, why did you write this article other than, I don't know, dissing Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool, the crew and everything else and getting a few clicks? Did you really dislike it? Because as a fan, because that's what I can read from your article, you said the first one with the first movie was brilliant, the humor was your comedic senses were engaged at one point. And by the way, he said there's 5 negative things, and he said gross humor, which is whatever. Action pieces, okay, he didn't like that. And he didn't watch the Avengers. That's... Oh, and Deadpool love story, family story failed. First of all, that's 4, and then he pursues on giving examples why the family thing didn't work with the other characters and the supporting characters, which is basically the same thing he said in the point before. So that's not 5 points, that's 4 of them. One of them is really redundant because I went to watch a movie. It wasn't the Avengers. A very good article. I don't even know what to say. Yeah, so this was me reading this fascinating article about not wanting the third Deadpool, not liking Deadpool the second, and just probably giving more awareness to this article than it should have deserved with the 5 people that all sent to watch it. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the best idea to make this video, but I felt kind of intrigued about it because, yeah, I just want to point how pointless how clueless some news writers actually are in 2018 and how bad news outlets can influence society in a bad way. As I said, I personally didn't watch Deadpool 2 yet. I did wanted to go and watch it, but this could have altered my opinion. If it alters 10,000 people's opinion, that's like maybe $500,000 that the movie would lose at the box office. I'm just saying. Thanks for watching. See you next time. That separated and then reunited Wade Wilson with his one true love. The sequel was supposed to